So happy Star Wars Day! Yes! So we are celebrating with painting baby Yoda. So cute. So for today's painting, you are going to need the following colors. You are going to need yellow, green, blue, brown, white, and black. Also, the two paintbrushes that you're going to need are a medium-sized flat brush and a small little detail brush. You might see me using a bigger brush for the background because I got a big old whopper back here and it's going to take me forever to fill in with the smaller guy. So as I teach with proportion. So I'll say a quarter of the way or halfway or a third of the way. I'll show you two different ways to figure it out. So that way, in case you don't quite know those yet, it's a little tricky, I will show you, don't worry. But the goal is Baby Yoda, and don't stress out if it's a little bigger or a little smaller. We will get there, I promise. So without further ado, let's get going. So we are going to start sketching out our face. So you're going to take your small little detail brush and you're going to dip it in the green. If you do not have green, you're going to need to mix a little bit of yellow and a little bit of blue together. Okay, so we're going to use a little bit of green on our small detail brush. Then you're going to go to the top center of your canvas. You're going to go down a third of the way. So a third is if you cut it in three. So 1, 2, 3. So about a third of the way. You're going to go just a smidge from there and you're going to make a little mark. This is going to be the top of his head. So again, if your head's a little bit bigger, a little smaller, it's still cool, no problems. So again, we just went a little bit higher than a third of the way on our canvas and made a little mark, top of the head. Okay, now we're going to find the very middle of the canvas and we are going to go down just a smidge from there and we're also going to make another little dot. So we should have two dots so far, a top and a bottom. Now we are going to go from the right side a third of the way in. Remember, 1, 2, 3 if you're going to break it in thirds. So a third of the way in, I'm going to make a little dot right there. And same thing on the left side, a third of the way, make a little mark. This is going to be the side of his face. Okay, so we did 4 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to connect those dots, making an oval. So I'm going to lightly go through my dots to make this big oval head. So I'm not worried if it's a perfect oval right now. I'm just kind of sketching it out, giving him his head. Oh, geez. Okay, here we go. So we got our oval. So now as we're sketching out Yoda, I want you to keep in mind that you can erase. If you make a little bit of an oops, if your green gets somewhere you don't want it to be, all you have to do is just rip off a little piece of your paper towel, you dip it in the water, squeeze it out so it's damp, and then you just wipe it right off. Pretty cool, right? So any kind of big whoops, we could just wipe it right off, no stressing out. Today's a big day. So we have our oval for our head. So now, still with our teeny tiny brush and our green, we're going to start sketching out his ears. So he has these nice little pointy ears going to the side. So right here on the right, where it starts to curve down, that's where I'm going to start his ear. So you can make a little dot there if that helps you. It's going to be covered up anyways. So from here, I'm going to do a straight line going out towards the right. I'm going to leave about 1/8 of the way in from there. So we're just like this much. So like 1.5 inches, 2 inches, up to you how big you want his ears. So just straight across, stop right about there. So now I'm going to connect that line back to the head by making a triangle. So a little bit higher than where it starts to curve down here, I'm going to make a little dot so I know that's a little bit higher where I want to connect it to. And I'm just going to bring this triangle straight down to that dot. All right, so now we're gonna go back to this top here where we started our triangle, and we're gonna make a little teeny scoop to connect it. Scoop up and scoop out. Oh, I need more paint on my brush. Just a little scoop, just so it's gonna soften it up. So it's a nice curve going out. So you guys can see that a little bit closer. Just a little curve. So no more straight, I'm making it softer now. Now at the end of his ear, I'm gonna do a little teeny curve too. I don't want him to have really pointy ears. I want just a little teeny curve. So a little curve, just soften it up. And then about halfway down this diagonal, I'm gonna start to curve it and bring it down to right where it starts to curve on the head. So right here, you can make a dot if that helps you. And about halfway on your bottom diagonal, I'm gonna start curving it down and making like a slight smiley face. So now you have a better Yoda ear. So he doesn't have these pointy triangles. So a lot of times when you're painting and drawing, making things with the actual shapes really simplifies it and makes it a lot easier to do. So in this case, the triangle really helped us out. All right, so now we're gonna do the same thing on the left side. Now we're pros because we just did it already on the right. So now remember, right where it starts to curve down, you're gonna make a little dot right where you wanna start your line going out. So right when it starts to curve, you're gonna make a little dot, and then from there, you're gonna do a straight line going out, and about 1/8 of the way, or like an inch and a half or two, you're gonna stop. So straight out, and again, I'm not too concerned if it's perfect. We have our line. All right, then we're gonna make our triangle, right? We're gonna make our diagonal back to the head. So a little bit higher than where it curves, we're gonna make our little dot, and we're gonna attach our line to that dot. All right, so now we gotta soften it up again after we're done with our triangle. So right here at the head, we're gonna start doing a little scoop to connect it. Scoop, just like that. So it's gonna soften it right up. And then same thing at the edge of the ear. It's gonna be a little curve around. And then halfway down your diagonal, you're gonna do a little teeny smiley face to bring it down right here to the bottom of the left side of the face. So curve down, little smile, just like that. So we have 2 of his Yoda ears. Oh, this one needs to go a little bit shorter. There we go. Okay, so we're not filling it in yet. We need to still put in his eyes. So right in the middle of the face, right here, you're gonna make a little, you're gonna put your finger right there, and then just to the right of your finger, you're gonna make a little dot on the right and a little dot on the left. Those are where his eyes are gonna start. So a dot to the right and a dot to the left. So now we'll start on this right dot. We're gonna do the bottom of his eye. So the bottom of his eye is just a small little smiley face. It's really not super curved, it's just very slight. And you're gonna go, just like leave about 1 inch from the edge of his face. So I'm just gonna do a slight curve up. I like nice big Yoda eyes. Just like that. So it's just a slight little smile. All right, so now we're gonna go on this left eye, same thing we did on the right, and we're gonna just do a slight little smiley face. You're gonna stop about the same amount that you did on the right, so about 1 inch. So a slight little smile, little scoop. And whenever I want to be a little bit more steady, just a tip, I always lean my pinky on the canvas, and it helps me be more stable. So now it looks like Baby Yoda's sleeping. So now we're going to go back to our right eye, our little smiley face, and now I'm going to connect the beginning of this line and the end of this line with a frowny face. So this guy is going to be big because I like my big eyes, just like that. Just a big curve to connect them. And same thing on the left. So we just sketched out the head, the ears, and then we gave a place for the eyes. So now we're going to start filling in his head with the green. So I'm actually going to make a little bit of a lighter green. So I'm going to mix my green with some yellow. So just a little bit lighter than before. There's a little bit of yellow in this mix. And so I'm going to start with this small area because I still have my small brush. And I'm just going to fill in just the little area with the small brush that I have. And then once I get to a bigger area, I'm going to then switch out to the bigger brush, right? So we could cover more area. So I'm doing the small areas with the small brush. And it depends. If you have a much smaller canvas, you might have a lot more areas that are smaller for you, and you're going to need your smaller brush to fill those in as well. So it really just depends on the size you're painting on. So now I'm switching out to my bigger brush. I'm starting to fill them in. All right, so now we're going to clean our little brush and we're going to make a light tan. So you're going to take your brown and you're going to mix a little bit of brown and a little bit of white. So I shouldn't say too light of a tan, just a tan. Okay, so a little bit of brown, a little bit of white. It's like this color if you could see. Kind of hard to tell with the cam, but that helps. Like that kind of color. So a little bit of white, a little bit of brown on our small brush. And I'm going to find the first third coming in from the left side of my Yoda. And I'm going to come down a third of the way. This is all about thirds. All right. So if you cut it in a third of the way from your head, the bottom of your head, and the bottom of your canvas. So 1, 2, 3. So about right here, I'm going to make a little mark. And I'm going to connect that mark to this head. So just to the right of center is going to be your third. and I'm going to connect it right there. That's going to be the little part of his robe. It's a robe or cloak or whatever he's wearing. That's what that is. So we just did a third of the way down between the bottom of his head and the bottom of the canvas. And we just connected it right back up. Now we're going to go to the left side of his head, and we are going to make a slight curve. So it's going to be a line, but it's just going to be a slight curve to it, and it's going to be shorter than this one that we just created. So just slight curve, but shorter than this guy. Like a little parenthesis almost, but not as intense, just slight. Slight little curve. We're going to do the same thing on the right. You want to do this about the same height. Slight little curve. Okay, so we did our line in the middle. That was about a third of the way. And then these little guys on the side are going to be just shorter than this one. So the reason why we're doing it shorter is we want to be able to now make a little bit of a scoop, right, to make it look more round. So now from the bottom of this guy on the right of this line, I'm going to connect it to just a little bit into this line. I'm not going to do it to the bottom. So if you want to look first, it's going to be a slight scoop. And it's going to connect right there. So just a little bit in, a little bit up from our line. I'm going to do the same thing with the left, except for this guy is going to connect to the bottom of the line. So we have the beginning, his little top of his coat. All right, so now on this left side, I'm going to come in just a little bit, just enough room for his little arm to be, right? So I'm going to go in just a little bit, so maybe about an inch. And from there, I'm going to connect it to the bottom, but it's going to go out at a slight scoop out. So I'll show you real quick. So we're going to go down, and it's going to go out. So it's going to be a slight scoop out and connect to the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing on the right. You're going to go in just a little bit, enough room for his little arm, so it wants to be the same as that size. And then I'm going to go here and then scoop out. So we got his collar, we got the beginning of his coat, and now we got to put in his little arms on the side. So we're still with our tan, we're still with our small brush. Now you're going to go up from the bottom along this right side that we just put in. You're going to go about halfway. From that halfway mark, I'm going to just do a slight diagonal up towards the right. Then I'm going to connect the end of this line that I just put in. I'm now going to connect it right up here, just inside my collar. So you have a sleeve. Oh my gosh, this guy's so cute. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on the left side. You're going to come up halfway. You're going to make a slight diagonal. And then from there, you're going to connect it right back to slightly inside his collar. So we just put in his sleeves. Now we got to add his little cuffs on the end of his sleeves. So all we got to do is we're going to go back to the end right here. We did the diagonal. And we're going to do a little slight parentheses, a little curve going in. Little curve. And then I'm just going to bring it right back into the body. So it doesn't have to be exactly diagonal with the other one. You're just going to bring it in. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to start here at the edge, a little parentheses, and bring it right back into the body. All right, so I'm cleaning my brush. I'm going to go back to the same color green that I used to fill in his face. So I'm going to make that yellowy green. I'm going to put in his little hands that are poking out his little sleeves. So cute. Okay, so right here at the base of his little cuffs, you're going to go in just a little bit, and I'm just going to do a little scoop into my little coat, little scoop. So I'm going to start again, a little bit in and a little scoop, and then I'm going to fill it in. So now we're going to go to the background. So all we're going to do for the background for now, we're going to make it fancy in a little bit, is we're just going to fill in the whole background in blue. So a little tip to use your small brush as you're getting really close to your Yoda to make sure you don't go in. It just helps you have a little bit more control. And then for the big areas, of course, go back to your bigger brush to fill it all in. So for right now, I'm just going to use straight blue. If you want to make it lighter, you can. You want to use a different color, you can. This is your painting. So I'm just using my little brush wherever I'm just really close to my Yoda, my little baby over here. Gotta protect him. So as you go around the head with the blue, it's a good time to kind of clean up the edges, smooth it out, cover it up with the background. Now, if you're painting on canvas and not like canvas paper or panel or anything like that, I recommend that you wrap your canvas as you're doing the background. So all that means is that whenever your brush hits the edge of the canvas, you just continue on to the side. So in this case, you would do blue for the side and the top and the bottom. And that way, when you hang it up and display it, it really looks nice and finished and complete. But again, that's only if you have like a wrapped canvas where you have an edge. So while the background is still wet, we're actually going to make a darker blue. So a little bit of black with the blue. Don't go crazy with the black. The black is really strong. You just want it to be slightly darker than what you currently have. So with your darker blue, I mixed a little bit of black with the blue. I'm going to put that on the edges, and then I'm going to start blending it in. So I'm going to start here at the edge, and I'm just going to go back and forth, closer to the center till it starts to disappear. Okay? So I'm going to do that on all of the corners, a little bit up here on the top. So just a little bit of shading in the back. Remember, careful not to go too crazy with your black. Yeah, just a smidge of black. It goes crazy dark so quick. So you want it to just be slightly darker on the edges and just get a little bit lighter as it gets closer to our little guy. And if you went a little crazy with the black, then it'll just be that much more intense. Now we got to start adding more of like the details, right? So we're going to go back to the head, and we're going to use our little brush, our little guy, so make sure it's nice and clean. And now we're going to go just to our straight green. So it should look a little different because the other one had a little bit of yellow in it. Okay, so we want just a straight green. And now we're going to add some depth to his ear. So it looks like he has a little flap there, right? So we're going to start halfway up this right side of his face. If you could still remember where that right side of the face is, right, of his little oval, that's where you're going to start. So from here, I'm going to make a little curve, a diagonal curve, like a smiley face upside down, so frowny face, right? So from here to this side, we're doing a little curve. And then right when you get So about halfway, then you're just going to connect it right down, just go straight to the end. Okay, so let me bring this up so you guys could see. So I started halfway, I curved it up, and then I went straight down to the end of his ear. Then I'm going to fill in this top part of his ear with that straight green. So you want to just have like a difference in color. So if your green isn't really showing, it's not that different, you could either make this green a little darker by maybe adding a little bit of blue to it, or you could go a little bit lighter with the other part of his ear, up to you. But you definitely want to see that there is a difference. And we'll go back to you later and add some more stuff. So we got his little flap on the right side. So we're going to do the same thing now on the left. We got our green or darker green, depending your situation. We're going to go halfway on the left side of his face. We're going to curve up, curve, curve, curve at a diagonal. And then right when we get halfway, now I'm just going to go straight to the end. And I'm going to fill it in. So it's just slightly darker, but you want to be able to at least notice the difference. And then we're going to add some shading to his head, because right now it's just flat, just plain color. We got to add at least two colors, at least, right? At least two different tones. So this straight green is just going to go along the left side and along the right side. So we're first going to start on the left. I'm just going to outline just this curve of his left side of the face. Just the curve for now. So I just outline the curve with the straight green or the darker green that you have. And then from there, I'm just going to start blending it into the center. So I'm going right over where the green meets my lighter green. I'm going over that line. I'm just going to go back and forth over it until it starts blending into the center. So I'm just gradually moving towards the center with that color. So it should just be a soft, gradual change from the green to a lighter tone. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. I'm going to outline just the right side of the face. And then I'm going to start blending it in towards the center. So I'm just going to go back and forth, right where they meet until it softens it up as I get towards the center. And then we just have a little bit of that green coming down the center. So right here at the top, I'm just going to go side to side, just about the width of in between his eyes. And then I'm just going to bring it down. So I just did a little bit of green on the top, and then I'm just going to blend it going straight down. So soften it up. So I'm cleaning my brush. I'm going to go to straight brown. So I'm not mixing with any white right now. I'm just going to go straight brown. And with the straight brown, I'm going to start putting in like just some of the dark parts of the coat where it looks like the coat's kind of moving, right? So we're going to first put some strokes going on the left side. So I'm going to go in just a little bit from the left side of his body and about quarter of the way down from his collar. And I'm just going to go parallel to this curved line, just like that. And it's not exact. You don't have to have a perfect line because we're going to be blending it all in. We're just putting it in certain spots strategically. We're going to do the same thing on the right now. You're going to come in just a little bit, about a quarter of the way down. And if it's more or less, again, don't worry about it. This is going to be in the background. This is just to add some movement. And then all along the bottom of his collar, I'm going to also add the brown. So I'm just going to do a little line going right below his whole collar. It's going to be some shadow. I just went right below. Now we're going to move over to his sleeves, not the cuffs, but the sleeves. And I'm just going to outline the sleeves with this brown. So the right side and the left side, and do the same thing on the right sleeve. Okay, then I'm going to go to the top of the sleeve and just pull a few strokes down of brown. So I'm just kind of filling in just a little bit, just the top. Just kind of flick, flick, flick. If it fills it in, it's cool. Then we're going to go back to his neck and we're going to make like a little V. So right here in the center, from our little like darker area, we're just going to do a little V. So one down and the other one on the other side. Little V. All right, so now we're going to change our brush to the bigger brush, and we're going to go to a lighter tone, but we don't want to go too light because we're going to use a lighter tone than even that for the collar and his cuffs. So I'm just going to add a little bit of white to my brown. I like this color right here. It's kind of hard to tell. So with our bigger brush, we're going to go ahead and start blending down. I'm going to cover this whole guy right here, right? This whole bottom part of his coat. So as I'm pulling it down, it's going to start to blend in that darker tone that we put in on the bottom. So at the strokes that I'm using, I'm just going with the direction of the coat. I'm going up and down, up and down. Unless, of course, you want to add some texture to your coat, then you could go all crazy and fill it in that way. So some of these areas are picking up more of the brown than others. We could always go back and put some more in if you want. So if you have a really small Yoda, you might need to go to your little brush for his arms. I mean, this guy is adorbs. Can't even take it. Okay, so we filled it in with just a slightly lighter brown, so you should be able to see some of those darker tones in there. If it doesn't, depending on the paint you have, you could go ahead and go back with the brown and add just a little bit more streaks in there if you want. Okay, so now we're gonna go to his collar and his cuffs, and we're gonna make a much lighter brown. So more white to the mix. This one's gonna be the same tone that we used to sketch the guy out. Right, when we sketched out his coat, it was that lighter tan. And with that lighter tan, we're now just gonna fill in his collar, and then we're gonna fill in with our little brush his little cuffs. So when I'm putting in his collar, I'm going a little bit into his head just so it looks like his head's kind of like hiding behind his collar, right? It's kind of tucked in there. So I'm just gonna bring it up just a little bit. I wanna tuck him in there. All cozy. So we just filled it in, the light brown. We're gonna go to the cuffs, do the same thing. So now remember, whenever you're not using one of your brushes, you're gonna always let it sit and rest in the water. It helps extend the life of your brushes. You never wanna leave a brush out with paint on it. It's gonna dry out and ruin your brush. So you wanna make sure, always leave it in the water if you're not using it. So I'm using my little brush. I'm gonna dip it in my brown, and we're getting fancy here. I'm just going to go on the right side of this line that we originally put in, this longer line. So I'm gonna go on the right side of it. So it's gonna be a little darker. And then I'm gonna go back to that line I just put in, and I'm just gonna go parallel with my strokes to the shape of this collar, and I'm just gonna start flicking it in, flick, flick, flick. So you're gonna have some longer ones, some shorter ones. So it's gonna give it some texture, and it's also gonna give it some depth. Cool, right? So again, we just did some brown with our small brush. We did it along the right side, and then we just flicked it in along parallel to that shape, that curved shape. So now I'm gonna do the same thing on this left side, far left side of the collar. I'm gonna outline it and then just pull it in. Now, on this side, you could see that my paint has already dried a bit. So I'm gonna need to go back with some of that lighter paint and soften it up a bit. I'm doing a few strokes. So we just did the brown on the right side of this center line and just scooped it through. Scoop, 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 scoop. And we did the same thing on the far left. So you're just going parallel to the scoopy shape that we originally put in for the collar. So this is like fancier stuff, right? We're like shading and adding some texture. So I'm going to also pull just a few strokes of brown on his cuff. And really it's just a couple dashes. It's really up to you however much you want to do. Dash, dash, dash. Moving on to the eyes. So we have our teeny tiny brush. We're going to dip it in the black. Now, when you are using black and you want to do a nice fine line, or really when you're using any color and you want to make a nice thin line, the trick is you have to lightly touch your canvas. If you smush your brush into the canvas, you're going to get a fat, crazy line. So you want to be very light to the touch and you'll get a nice thin line. Okay, that's the trick. With our black and our teeny tiny brush, we are going to outline first both of these eyes. I'm leaning my pinky on the canvas. All right, so when you're done outlining with black, now we're going to put in his big eyes. So I'm going to start with the one on the left. You're going to come in just a little bit from the left side, and I'm going to do like a parentheses, right? A left parentheses right here, shoop, little scoop on one side. So a little scoop, shoop. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the right. I'm going to come in just a little bit and do a little scoop the other way. So scoop, scoop. Then before you fill it in, you can make these little circles for the little sparkle in his eye. So he has two circles. One starts at the top left, and then it goes down a diagonal and does another circle. So then you're going to fill it in. So before you fill that in, we'll do it on the right side first. Now we just fill it all in together. So remember, we're going to go in just a little bit, and we're making like parentheses. So one going one way, and one hugging it and going the other way. So we got parentheses, and then we're doing our circles. And the one on the right is the same thing. At top left, you're going to make a little circle. And then goes down a diagonal to the bottom right. So now I'm going to fill in all this area with my black. Look at these big old eyes. I love it. So cute, so cute. So with our little brush and our black, we're going to put in his nose. So right here in the center, you're going to come down just a little smidge, right? Just a little bit. And we're going to make a little frowny face with his nose. just like that, little curve. Now, if you want to do a different kind of expression, totally up to you. This is your painting. I'm making mine happy. So, did a little upside down U, like a little frowny face, right? Now I'm going to go to the mouth. I'm going to make a nice big smile. It's going to start about the center of his eye to about the center of his other eye. It's going to be halfway between the nose and his coat. So very light. We got our smile. So we did the nose and the mouth. Now we got to give him a little wrinkle over his eye. So it's almost like an eyebrow, but I don't really think it's an eyebrow. I think it's just a wrinkle. So right above the eye, you're going to give it a little bit of a space. And I'm just going to follow the shape of the eye. It's just going to go right around it, just like that. Make this guy more of a point. Okay, I'm doing the same thing on the left. Excuse me, on the right side as we did on the left. We're going to go up. There's two little wrinkles. Then you're going to go back to this guy on the left, and halfway between where it's at and the top of the head, you're going to just do a little diagonal line. A little diagonal line right over here. Oop, same thing on the right. Of course, if you want to add more wrinkles, totally up to you. Okay, we got to put a little bit of hair sticking up. So the way you do that is you're going to start wherever you want to put your little hairs. I'm going to start right here at the top. So I'm going to start on the head and then flick up. On the head and flick up. I'm not flicking down because whichever way you flick, that's where it's going to be the wispy kind of look. So I want the hair to be wispy, so I start at the head and I flick up. So I'm just going to add a couple little hairs. You can add as many as you want or as little as you want, up to you. Have these little teeny pokey guys. Then we got to go back to the ears, and I'm going to just outline just this little curve right here where we put in our green. So I'm just going to outline very lightly just a little bit of the black. And I'm going to go almost all the way, not quite all the way to the end. So just a little bit of an outline of black. Same thing on the right. And then I'm going to outline the left side, but almost to the top of the ear. So I'm not going to quite go up to the top. So I'm going to leave just a little bit of a space. And then same thing on the right. You guys were getting there. You're doing so good. So I'll bring this up closer. So the ear didn't go quite to the end, and the scoop on the side didn't go quite up to the end of the ear. So just a little bit. Now we're going to go down to the hands. And I'm going to do a little outline of the hand, so just along the bottom. And then I'm going to do a little dash going in just a little bit. So you have a little dash, little hand. Okay? So it didn't go all the way through, so I'm outlining it. And then just a little bit, and I'm making a little teeny dash for the hand. All right, so we should have the eyes in, the little wrinkles, a little bit of hair, the mouth, a little bit of detail on the ears and the side of the face. Now we're going to clean our brush and go to white. Just to the left of this line right here on his collar, we're going to do a vertical line. Just to the left. So here's my line here, and then I came in just a little bit and made my little vertical line. Then I'm going to do a little dash on the top, and a little dash on the bottom going to the left. Now I'm going to go to my left side of my collar. I'm going to do a little dash just slightly in on the left side, just a little dash going in. On the right, I'm going to have it go down just a little bit longer. Another little highlight. And then on the arms, on his sleeve, just a little bit on the left. I'm not going to go all the way up, just a little bit on the outside. That's the side we're going to do it. A little dash and a little dash on his cuffs. So same thing on the right, just a little bit in on the far outside, and then a little bit on his cuff. She has a little bit of highlight going on. All right, we're almost there. So we're gonna go back to the eyes, and now the white of the eye and the white of the dots, we're gonna put white in. So if you didn't have room for dots, or you don't wanna do a dot, up to you, or you can just do a little teeny single dot, that works too. So we're gonna go back to his ears. We're gonna make a light green, so a little bit of green and a little bit of white. We don't need a lot of it. And then just a little bit of yellow. So it's green, white with a little bit of yellow. And just along this bottom part of his ear as a highlight, I'm just gonna add that lighter color. Just along that bottom part of his ear. Okay, so we put in some highlight with some white. The very last step of this whole shebang is putting in the stars in the background. So there's two different ways you can do the stars. The first way is you can do them individually with your brush. So I don't smush my brush into it. I use actually the back of it. So you could dip it in your white with the back of your brush. You can just do a little dot, dot, dot like that. So that'll take a while, but that's a way to do it, to have some bigger ones. Another way, which is a little messier, but definitely more fun, is you take your bigger brush, you dip it in the white, and you get close, you're gonna flick it back. So you're gonna hold it back like this, you put your finger on it, you're gonna flick it back, and then you're gonna release right on your canvas like this. You get little spatters. You guys see that? Let me bring this up closer. See these little teeny spatters going on. It's hard to see it on the webcam. So there's two different ways to do it. You can do a mix too if you want, whatever. These are like nice little teeny dots, little specks. So you could do a mix, you could do one, you could do the other. You can write a little message up there on the top. I'm just flick, 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 flick with my brush like that. Hold it back, and then I release. I do it right next to my canvas. And it's fun. A little messy, but it's fun. But we're painting, so whatever, we can be messy. That's part of the fun of it. So you could put as many stars, you could do a shooting star. I mean, really, I want you to be as creative as possible. Really make this your own. Please post on Instagram, Facebook, have your parents do it for you. You shouldn't be on. And tag Splash Art Class, hashtag Splash Art Class, at Splash Art Class. I would love to see them. Make sure that you are always checking our calendar for all the new live classes that we're offering. All the classes that we offer are turned into on demand if you ever miss any, if there was one from last week that you missed. You guys remember to clean your brushes, sign your painting. You did a wonderful job, and I gotta say it. May the force be with you.